AEW Wrestledream has officially wrapped up. I'm going to be going over the entire card, my thoughts and opinion on every single match. I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to jump straight into it. First, the opening match, my mistake, starts out with Hangman Page versus Jay White. This was actually a really great match. I really enjoyed this match from top to bottom. Had some decent spots here and there. We had a spot where Hangman did like a power bomb onto the steel steps onto Jay White. We have 1-6 spot where Jay White, I don't know what the move is called, but basically he lifts Hangman on one leg and then slams his other leg on an entrance ramp, which was a very nasty spot. I have never seen anything like that in wrestling. That was very shocking. But we do get towards the end of the match where Hangman tries to go for a buckshot lariat, but Jay White ends up countering it into the Blade Runner, which was very sick. That was one of the best counters I have seen out of a buckshot lariat. So that was this match overall was really great. I really enjoyed this match. This was a great way to start the show. Pretty sure they're probably going to continue the feud, but I'm not really sure. Very shocked that he also won the match cleanly as well. I thought that the Bang Bang game was going to interfere and try to help, but he ended up winning the match cleanly, which I actually like because Hangman doesn't need the victory. Hangman is already rising. He's already at the peak of I don't know if I would say popularity, but you know he has a lot of momentum. You know what I'm saying? This doesn't ruin his momentum. Jay White needs it more, so I'm glad that Jay White was able to pick up the victory because I was very scared that he was going to give it to Hangman, but Jay White was the clear, obvious winner that definitely deserved it. So glad that Jay White was able to get this victory over Hangman Adam Page. Next, we get the AEW Women's World Championship between Mariah May versus Willow Nightingale. This was also a really great match. Willow Nightingale really impressed me in this match. She ended up hitting a moonsault in this match, which was crazy. Which I never seen. I didn't know Willow Nightingale had that in her arsenal, but that's very interesting. She has that ability. But this match was really good. These two had really great in-ring chemistry. I love this match as well. I think towards the end of the match, if I'm not mistaken, Mariah May went for a Hurricanrana on the top rope, and it looked like Willow Nightingale was about to hit a powerbomb, but she couldn't, which allowed Mariah May end up hitting the Hurricanrana off the top rope. Then she ends up going into a Toni Storm and ends up retaining her AEW World Championship. This was, like I said, this was a great match. I don't have too much to say because we know what the real story is between Mariah May, which is eventually getting back with Mina Shirakawa and then eventually to Toni Storm. I thought Mina Shirakawa was going to make an appearance today to align herself with Mariah May, but I'm assuming they're going to save that for Dynamite. So we'll have to see what happens next with Mariah May's title run. But overall, this was a great match. Mariah May ends up retaining her AEW Women's World Championship. Now we end up getting Jack Perry versus Shibata for the TNT Championship. Not going to speak too much on this match. Just going to get straight to the ending here. Shibata accidentally pins himself he had a headlock on Jack Perry. He accidentally ends up pinning himself, which ends up making Jack Perry retain his TNT Championship. After the match, we get Jack Perry ends up attacking Shibata. Then we get the return of Daniel Garcia. Well, not really the return. I think he was on last week Dynamite, if I'm not mistaken. He ends up making an appearance. He tries to go after Jack Perry, but Jack Perry ends up getting out the ring. Then Daniel Garcia is just standing in the ring, which was waiting, and then MJF ends up making a return at Wrestledream. He ends up coming out, and he's just talking trash to Dan. Him and Daniel are going back and forth, but then Daniel Garcia ends up getting attacked by Jack Perry. After Jack Perry ends up attacking Daniel Garcia, MJF ends up cutting a promo, says a few words, ends up attacking Daniel Garcia. Then out of nowhere, as he's attacking him, Adam Cole ends up making his return. He is officially back. It seems like he's officially cured. He ends up making his return back. He ends up trying to attack MJF, but MJF ends up running away, and that's how we end this segment. This was great. Now, I will say this is very weird because I understand why they're doing this dynamic, but it is very weird that Adam Cole is a babyface now. I understand they strapped the whole Undisputed Kingdom story. I get it, but it's still weird that Adam Cole is the face and MJF is the heel. But to be fair, this might be the best route for this feud anyway, but it still doesn't make total sense. But overall, I'm just happy to see Adam Cole back because I really wanted to see that feud. Now we get a chance to actually see it. And hopefully this gives a chance for Daniel Garcia to move on to different things. Hopefully the TNT Championship. You know, we can start building up the implosion or the destruction of the Elite. So hopefully we can play that storyline because that story isn't going anywhere. But I love what they did here. This was really good. This was a really good segment. I enjoyed it, and I'm very excited to see how these feuds interact with each other, see how this plays out. Now we get the triple threat match for the International Championship between Ricochet, Konosuke Takeshita, and Will Ospreay. This was a banger. This was the best match on this night. The best match on the card, easily, in my opinion. We get towards the end of the match, if I'm not mistaken. I think Will Ospreay goes for a hidden blade. Konosuke Takeshita ends up kicking out at 1. I think Will Ospreay ends up going for it again, goes for the pin. If I'm not mistaken, I think Don Callis ended up pulling the referee out, preventing Will Ospreay to pick up the victory. Don Callis then gets in the ring. He has the screwdriver. He's trying to use the screwdriver on Will Ospreay, but Will Ospreay ends up catching him. And then Will Ospreay ends up trying to go for a Tiger Driver, but he ends up trying to go for a Tiger Driver, but out of nowhere, Kyle Fletcher ends up attacking Will Ospreay, turning heel, turning against his best friend, and ends up using the screwdriver against Will Ospreay, which then allowed Konosuke Takeshita to pick up the victory with a running knee. This was great. This was great. This was great. I think this is amazing. This is really good. I think this tells a way better story than Will Ospreay winning, because as good as Will Ospreay is a main eventer, and with Will Ospreay, he's basically, I like Will Ospreay, but I haven't been that interested in Will Ospreay since he beat MJF. Part of it is because he doesn't have much adversity as a top babyface, because as a top babyface, he's kind of booked, I wouldn't say like Cody Rhodes, where he's damn near invincible, but he's kind of like that to a degree, where he's almost invincible. So you kind of got to have like adversity. You got to have multiple people going after him, where to really build a really good story, or to really build that tension of he could possibly lose, because he's built so strong where you have to do things like that. And I think this makes the story way more interesting with Kyle Fletcher. I like Kyle Fletcher as a babyface, but I think it makes it way more interesting with him going against all of the Don Callis family, instead of him just only going against technically Konosuke and Don Callis. He has to face Kyle, Konosuke, and Don Callis. So I really like that. They're probably going to have Ricochet team up with Will to have him help, which they could play that story as well. But this is great. I didn't think they was going to pull the trigger. I did not think they was going to pull the trigger. I thought they would be afraid. I didn't think they was going to do it, but I'm glad that they pulled the trigger on Konosuke, and I'm excited to see what he does. This is great. I enjoyed what they did here. This is great, and I'm excited to see what they do with Konosuke Takeshita with this international championship run. Now we end up getting Swerve Strickland. He ends up making his return. As he was talking, he ends up getting interrupted by MVP. MVP basically trying to recruit Swerve Strickland. That's what he's been doing. And he ends up, giving out his history between him and Swerve. He ends up giving out his history of turning former champions into bigger stars and that. Then we get a long-winded promo of Swerve keeps going back and forth. He keeps on baiting MVP, but he also baiting Nana, where he'll praise Nana, then he'll insult Nana, praise him, insult, then he'll go back and forth, where it looks like he's about to side with MVP, then it looks like he's about to side with Nana. But then towards the end of the promo, he was insulting Nana, insulting all of his flaws. But then he ends up saying that Nana is family, and he doesn't turn his back on family, and he ends up declining MVP proposal. Then Shelton Benjamin ends up stepping up to Swerve and ends up saying that they wasn't asking him to join, they was telling him to join. And then they end up, shoving each other for a bit, and then security ends up breaking them up. This is good. This is really good. Of course, they're waiting for the big arrival of Bobby Lashley. I'm assuming that's going to be their big muscle that's going to face Swerve, which I think is the better story. I don't think it's time for Prince Nana and Swerve to break up yet. So I'm excited to really see what they do here, because this story has a lot of potential. It has a lot of potential, especially with MVP as the mic worker, as as the talker for the group. I think this has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see what they do with Swerve Strickland. Now we get Hologram versus Beast Mortals in a 2 out of 3 falls match. I'm not gonna speak too much on this match, really. This was a great match. Hologram wins. I don't think I really need to say much about this. Hologram put on a great show. Beast Mortals put on a great show, as they typically do. And Hologram picks up the victory, and he's still undefeated. I don't really have to say much about this match, to be honest with you. Now we get Darby Allin versus Brody King. I almost forgot his name. I don't know why. But same thing here. I don't really need to speak too much on this match. This match played out exactly how I predicted in my predictions video, where Brody King was going to dominate a good portion of this match, but then Darby Allin was going to eventually make a comeback, doing Darby Allin things, and pick up the victory, which will end up happening. I'm assuming this is the end of the feud. They end up having a sign of respect. They shook hands, and that's it. So I'm assuming this is the end of the feud, especially due to what happens towards the main event. So yeah, overall great match, but nothing more to really say about it. Get the Young Bucks versus Private Party for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Private Party put on an amazing match. They put on an amazing showing, but we knew what was going to happen. Overall, the Young Bucks ended up retaining. It was obvious they was going to retain. Chris Jericho versus Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe wins. I'm not going to go that in depth. This played out exactly how I thought it would. Basically, Big Bill and Bryan Keith try to interfere, but Rocky Romero and Orange Cassidy ends up making the numbers game not a factor, and Briscoe ends up retaining the Ring of Honor World Championship. Now we get the main event. Oh my God. This main event really annoyed me. Okay. The match was great. But John Moxley ends up beating Bryan Danielson with a headlock, basically. And then after the match, they end up attacking Bryan, Darby Allin, and then Willa Yuta tries to save, but then Willa Yuta ends up turning his back on Darby Allin. Then he ends up suffocating Bryan Danielson. Then out of nowhere, towards the end of this, every member of the locker room all of a sudden wanted to help Bryan Danielson, which doesn't make sense because they took the longest time. Like, Bryan Danielson was getting suffocated for like 5 minutes, and then everyone wants to come. Like Orange Cassidy, I forgot who else was out there. I know Private Party came out there. Basically, every babyface you could think of all of a sudden came like last minute after Bryan Danielson was already suffering. This was just a mess. I can't believe this is how we end Bryan Danielson's full-time career. Look, I was one of the main people who was saying that Swerve should end Bryan Danielson's career. I've been saying it, and I still agree with it, especially after tonight. The reason why is because, no offense to John Moxley, but I don't think John Moxley deserved it. I don't think this elevates him at all. And this storyline, don't get me wrong, I'm interested in it. I just don't have high hopes of this storyline being that amazing where it's worth this ending, in my opinion. I feel like Swerve was just a better ending. I think you could have just done Swerve dethroning him, Swerve being the new hot upcoming rising AEW star, and then you could have had Swerve lose to Hangman for the championship. Or you could have done the storyline. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of just don't like the fact that Bryan Danielson won just for him to lose to Moxley in 2 months, maybe less than 2 months. Maybe I'm tripping. You guys let me know. But me, I feel like Swerve should have just won an in my opinion. I don't know. I felt like this was just anticlimactic, and the way it ended was just kind of bad and kind of boring to a degree. That's just me. Hopefully they could change my mind. But overall, Wrestledream was a great pay-per-view. They always deliver on pay-per-views, but the ending was not that good. I kind of wish they would have came up with a better ending, in my opinion. But overall, this was a great show. You guys let me know your opinions, thoughts down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.